Hi, everyone. My name is Abigail Sapir. I am so happy to be with you today from Zichron Yaakov, Israel. And we are again talking about foundational healing. And within foundational healing, we are using many different modalities, but we're really focusing on in these basic classes, the basic understanding of how the body works and how it heals itself and how we can support that healing. If our bodies are currently experiencing any kind of discomfort or dis-ease, or is just simply out of balance, our goal in these classes is to help us restore that natural balance within ourselves so that we can experience amazing health and feel all the good things that we want to feel on a daily basis. So we're providing education and practical solutions, and that's it. We are not making claims of any kind. And this is one of our rescue kitties from last year. His name's Potter, and he also experienced a lot of natural healing. So we've got lots of good testimonies, even from our animals. So we're using a lot of essential oils, clean eating, meditation. Maybe some of us are practicing intermittent fasting. We love to help our body continue its natural detox and cleansing process. And we want to avoid all of this. We don't want our bucket overflowing with all of these horrible symptoms that many of us have experienced over the years, and some are experiencing right now. And if you are, sometimes some people look at this chart and they say they are experiencing every single thing here. And that's really hard. And I understand, but just don't be discouraged. We're going to take out one at a time. And you're going to, by the end of this series, you're going to feel so empowered. And that is really our main goal, is that you are empowered to be in balance and in sync with your body. Your mind, emotions, and body are all together. Your being is whole and complete. So our goal in this, I'm doing a two-part class on the emotional brain. Why? Because there's just so much to cover and I don't want it to be overwhelming. And longer classes are really tough. So we're going to talk today about this first one, how and why emotions affect the body's organs and systems, emotionally, mentally, but especially physically. We know a lot about already, most of us understand how negative emotions are going to affect us, our negative feeling, negative thoughts and negative feeling, mental health. That's pretty basic. And if there's anyone that doesn't really understand that combination, then or those effects, then please be in touch and we'll be happy to take you through that. But today we're really going to focus on how it affects us, how it works, and how it affects our body physically. Okay, so here is a very interesting chart. And I like us to just have this on hand. There's more detailed charts of this online that you can find. But this is just, it's a really fun way to look at our bodies and our emotions. And it's kind of a grown-up version of a chart that I'll show later that we often see some version of in kindergartens and GANs and stuff like that. But this is like the grown-up version. This is the aware version. When I'm feeling this emotion, what does my body feel? Now, I remember when I know a couple young people that were always feeling neutral. Oh, right over here on the top right. They just felt like they felt nothing, meh. And in fact, they were so meh that they would create dramatic or dangerous situations or experiences in order to feel something, even if it was fear, even if it was anger or anxiety, anything at all except nothing. And you can see why that they were so desperate for that. Because depression down here towards the middle on the left bottom, depression and neutrality are similar and both very dark, very cold and icy. And you start to feel numb, and eventually nothing at all. And you think anything is better than nothing, and in a way it is. But we want to understand why these feelings come to us, and how we can start to have what we can do with them. And it's not about always being positive or balancing the negative with the positive. We don't need to have the same amount of negative feelings as we do positive feelings in order to be balanced. What we need to understand is why those negative feelings come and what they're there for. And one thing I'll just tell you up front is they are not there for us to stew in or frame on the wall or ruminate on. Absolutely not. It's better to throw them out the window, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So first, let's look at our brain. What is our emotional brain, and how does that relate to us physically? So the limbic system acts as the control center for the conscious and the unconscious functions of the brain, regulating much of what the body does. So in some ways, it connects mind to body, body to mind, and bridges that gap between psychological and physiological experiences. Now, the amygdala, I always want to say Amy because that's my sister's name. The Amy, blah, 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 that doesn't make any sense. The amygdala region of the brain is linked to emotions. It is primarily associated with the emotional processes. And this name was derived from a Greek word meaning almond, amygdale, I think it is, meaning almond, because of the structure of this little piece in the brain. It kind of looks like an almond from some perspectives. Okay, so really, it's part of the whole limbic system. And the limbic system is this neutral network that mediates many aspects of the emotions and memory. It helps the body to respond to intense emotions of fear and anger by activating fight or flight responses. We really refer to it as the 4 Fs: flight, freeze, fight, and fornicate. Now, some will say there's only 3 Fs. Other, professionals say there's 4 Fs. But because sometimes that animal brain, the instinct is to fornicate. Not so much in humans. Hopefully, we have, risen above those more basic animal instincts, and we have control over ourselves. So we can really focus on the 3 Fs: fight, flight, or freeze responses. And that is what our limbic brain is helping us to process. Now, when the amygdala perceives a threat, it activates the whole limbic system to prepare to handle that threat. What is it going to do? So the adrenal glands release hormones like epinephrine. It raises the blood sugar, the heart rate, the blood pressure. It improves blood flow to the muscles and organs. So all of a sudden we're looser, and we've got laser focus. Elevates our breathing, so we're getting more oxygen into our bodies so our brain can work faster. And truly, in a short-term response, in an emergency situation, that fight or freeze response can be and is often life-saving, especially to animals and oftentimes to us. How many times have you noticed yourself almost subconsciously freezing right before the moment of danger, whether it's stepping out into a dangerous street or off the side of a cliff or, slipping on a rock, whatever it is? That's our limbic system taking over in less than a tenth of a second. So in less than a tenth of a second, Our brain recognizes a dangerous situation or an unhealthy situation. Let's say, oh my gosh, a cat here. Please excuse me. Let me move the camera up. Whew. Just takes 2 seconds of a cat walking by and I'm covered again. Okay, so our brain recognizes a dangerous situation. It immediately activates the limbic system to get the body to respond instantly. 1/10 of a second, not even a full second. Our body instantly responds, and then the brain needs to come in and understand, what do we do with this? So first of all, our limbic system gives us some kind of signal to run. If there's a lion chasing us, we want to run, right? We have to overcome that instinct. If we know better, like say we're facing a wild bear and we know, don't run from a bear, drop, play dead. So sometimes, because we are not, animals, and we don't have that day-to-day instinct that we're dealing with in these situations, other animals will know automatically, play dead. But we have to tell ourselves, no, play dead, right? Okay, so, but that freezing, when we're almost stepping out into a dangerous street and we just subconsciously, like something stops us, we look around, oh my God, whew, so glad I stopped. There was a car, I didn't even see it, but our body recognized it, we sensed it. So that's, and then fight. And so if you're like in a dark alley and somebody steps out, some people want to run and some people's instinct is to stop and fight. Now, what we need to do after those impulses happen is very crucial, because now we take all of this into a non-emergency situation environments, our social environments, and what's happening there. So a lot of what happens in the social environments is a reaction to memory. What happened when this happened before? And so I'm going to automatically respond the same way I did because my brain recognizes it as a similar or exact situation. So let's look at the hippocampus. This is linked to memory. It's a very complex brain structure embedded really deep into the temporal lobe. And it has a very major role of learning and memory. It is plastic and a vulnerable structure that can get damaged by a variety of stimuli, which is really interesting. Not only do we need to be a bit elastic in our emotions, we need to be flexible and able to bend and come back. But this little organ in the brain is itself very, very flexible, but it also makes it very vulnerable. And so studies have shown that it can be affected in a variety of ways by neurological and psychiatric disorders. So, something that, prevention is worth a pound of cure. We talked about this at the beginning of the class series, and it applies even to our mental health. Sometimes we let something go so long that permanent or semi-permanent damage comes into place, and we don't want that to happen. We don't need it to. Now, the hippocampus also helps to form sensory memories, which are associated with sensory input, like the smell of a crisp apple or a warm beach, bringing back memories from a favorite summer in our youth. Or sometimes the smell of, let's say, the smell of a holiday meal will bring back negative memories. Maybe someone had a dysfunctional childhood or a very traumatic event, and those smells will instantly take them back to that moment. And that's the hippocampus. Okay, so let's kind of regroup here with the brain. We've got the emotional center, we've got the decision maker, and we've got the survival brain. The survival center versus the higher brain versus the developmental, the middle brain. The emotional brain really develops between 0 and 4 years old. And so when we find someone, when we meet an adult who is very, very emotional, we call them immature. Why do we call them immature? Because they haven't grown past 4 years old. They haven't been able to develop their decision-making center that starts developing between 5 and 6, where we start to say, oh, this hurts and this is not nice. And so what am I going to do about that? My friend hurt me and I don't like that. And so instead of saying angry and crying all day, I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to say, this didn't feel good. And this decision-making center, this higher brain, reasoning brain, is something that has to develop over the years. And if we have only very basic control of our emotions, we still are considered emotionally immature or underdeveloped or behind. Because the idea is that as a fully developed adult, we're able to take all of these processes and maturely handle them. And so when we are overwhelmed with things and we feel emotional, whether it's been from an emergency situation where the limbic brain was like, fight, freeze, or flee. I can never say them in the right order, so I always trip over them. But anyways, but maybe it's just social, and we're just feeling those emotions and we're not stepping out of them. We're not shaping them. We're not taking them and saying, okay, this is giving me a message. Now what do I do with it? Or we do very little with it. We say, I'm going to put it away in this drawer, or I'm going to fight somebody, or and we kind of go backwards. We get to the emotion of what's happening, and then we go back to to our previous impulse, which was hit that person or argue with them. Sometimes we hit people with words. So again, real quick, limbic brain, our flight, fight, or freeze response happens in 1/10 of a second. The overall system is to take charge of the situation, to know exactly what to do, to handle it, to move out and move on. And you see animals do this. The deer will freeze. She'll be very quiet. She'll close her eyes and she won't move a single muscle or hair. It doesn't matter what crawls on her. As soon as she senses that the danger has passed, she'll just move one ear, then she'll open like one eye, and then that body will slowly start to come back to life, and she'll look around, she'll check her situation. Is it safe now? Can I move? Yes. Now what does she do? She doesn't just get up and run away. Sometimes if she still feels like she's in danger, that's going to happen. But if she feels like she's in a safe place now, she gets up, and her body is now full of all of those emotional hormones, all of that stress response. And but she can't live in that because that's very damaging to the body. So what does she do? She shakes herself violently. She shakes her whole body, and she shakes and shakes, and then she runs off. Now, why is this important? Because we have to tell our body somehow, some way, that the danger is over, we can relax now. And shaking our body helps so much. We don't want to tell the child when they fall down and hurt themselves to stop crying, because that's their emotion about it. Their emotion is not wrong. What we need to do is to let them express that and help them to release everything around it. And literally shaking our body is a great way to do that. And sometimes I do that in a social situation. If somebody is just driving me insane and I feel and I want to argue or react, I just shake myself, like, okay, I want to let this go. I intend and I choose to let these emotions go, and I shake myself. And it's like, shaking some kid's toy that rearranges all the balls into the right right compartments. That's exactly what happens in our body. And I feel more clear. My brain fog goes, my emergency reaction in my brain chills out. And then my reasoning brain comes in and says, okay, now how do we do? Like, what do we do with this? This person is making me feel a certain way. So I know something isn't right here. So let's look at this from a different perspective, from a more clear and calm place, and determine a course of action of what I want to do from here. So one who is always responding from their emotional center will never truly know themselves. And as they grow up, they will inevitably follow someone else's logical thought process to what their reactions should be, because they might not know how to feel about a situation. And sometimes they might not let themselves know how they feel because they don't want to face that. A lot of people turn to cults or organized religion or very strict ways of life, very strict diets, very strict regimes, anything that will tell them how to act, when to act, what to do, because they don't know how to synchronize their brain and their body and their feelings. So we want to be able to do this. And I'm not saying in any way that religion is a bad thing. I think that religion can be a very helpful guide to the perplexed, as some have put it. And I myself would be considered religious by some people. But the point is that we don't want to rely on any one thing in order to make the decisions for us in our everyday life. Our belief systems and our morals and our ethics, those are things that we choose or things that we know are true. And our decisions can be based off of that, but should not be based off of our brain's primal reaction to a situation. Okay, I hope that I didn't make that more confusing. So before we talk about how to balance these sections in next week's class, let's understand more about what negative emotions can do to our body. So stress hormones, when released, can affect our heart rate, our lungs, our eyes, our ears, our blood, our skin, hands and feet, and pain perception. So sometimes this is good in an emergency situation, but when it stays with us, these are some of the things that happen. And because negative emotions are so, they have a very specific effect for us. They narrow our action repertoire or our actual behaviors. They give us tunnel vision. This is very important in a danger situation. We must have tunnel vision. We must not be distracted or we would be dead, taking it to an extreme, but that's the easiest way to understand it. But what does a positive emotion do? It doesn't give us that narrow tunnel vision. So we're going to understand it's completely different a little bit later. Negative emotions, like when you're fearful or angry, you won't notice a sunset or the happy tweeting of birds on your window. You're going to see that one thing out there that makes your gut go, and you know something's off. Always trust your feelings, always. It doesn't mean you need to run, fight, or freeze and do nothing. But it means something is out of balance. You might not ever know what it is, but it's true and it's real. It's not always, sometimes we just have to release it. Whatever I'm feeling right now, I don't know why, I don't know where it's coming from. That bothers me, or I just feel this emotion right now and it's bothering me. So I just give it to my higher power. I give it to the universe. I give it to God, however we relate to that higher power in and around us. And I'm going to walk free in light and love, because there's nothing that I can do about this at the moment. So I acknowledge it. I'm open to know how to respond to it. But until then, I give it to you and I'm going to keep going forward. So the function of negative emotions help us to minimize distractions in acute situations, which is very, very, very helpful. But we don't want it to sit with us. We don't want the negative physical things. We want our emotions to be free flowing. They're going to come in and we're going to let them go out. Flowing. And I talk about this a lot, like thoughts and feelings like leaves flowing through the wind of our minds. You know how one ear, in one ear, out the other ear. So I don't mean for us to not acknowledge them or to pretend that they don't exist or aren't important. They're very, very important. But the question is, what's the message? The message is never frame it on the wall and conduct tours of your, emotionally stunted brain or all of your negative experiences or all your traumatic experiences. This is not a slideshow. This is not a movie or a picture book to save and to keep and to go through and to remind ourselves of and to tell everybody about. If it is, that's the reality you're going to live in forever. So we want our thoughts, our emotions always to be free flowing. We have the choice to pick one out and to say, yes, keep that one. Release, keep that one. Release, release. It's like a modern dating app. Oh my God. Sweep left, 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 right. Yes, left, left, right, left. Okay, something like that. Now, when our emotions get stuck, when we get stuck on an emotion, and we hear people talk about things like this a lot. They say things like, I'm stuck, I'm trapped, I'm blocked, I don't know, I can't get rid of this emotion or this thought. It just keeps going on and on in my head. So this is where we run into issues. Again, you make that picture book, that movie, you're going to live in it. So because we're wired to defend against threat and loss, we tend to prioritize bad over good. And while this is really, again, a very good survival mechanism for someone who needs to stay hypervigilant in a dangerous situation or environment, the truth is that for most of us, this negative bias is counterproductive. Our negativity bias means that we spend too much time ruminating over and over on minor frustrations that we experience, bad traffic, a disagreement with a loved one, and ignore the many chances we have to experience wonder and awe and gratitude during the day. So in order for us to offset this negative bias and experience a more harmonious emotional state, Dr. Fredrickson proposes that we need to experience three positive emotions for every negative one. Now, this is like, drinking 3 cups of water for every cup of coffee. There's something to be said for that. And I would encourage you at each individual to check and see, experiment with yourself. What do you need? When you've experienced a negative emotion or you see yourself in a negative bias, how many good thoughts, happy thoughts, positive things do you need to think about before you are able to snap out of that downward spiral? And really look at this chart. I like to, I would love to have a much larger projector so that you could see the whole spiral together, and right in the middle, right between the upward spiral and the downward spiral, I like to call the foundation of satisfaction. As long as our foundation is always in satisfaction, we will always be able to go up. As soon as satisfaction is over our head and we're going, oh, I used to be satisfied, we are in a downward spiral. And you see how slowly it starts. Little tiny things, boredom, frustration, not so big, pessimism, feeling overwhelmed, feelings of doubt, discontentment, worry, discouragement, disappointment, all of a sudden you're into anger and revenge and hatred, and insecurity and guilt is already down there at the very bottom. And how many people are in this I don't know, it's like an everlasting circle, a vicious circle of insecurity, guilt, and feelings of unworthiness. Fear and grief, fear is already mixed in with any kind of downward spiral movement. Everything going up, we can say, is from the place of love. Everything coming down from a place of fear. Satisfaction, fear, satisfaction, and love. Now, satisfaction does not, obviously, because we're talking about spirals here, we're obviously not talking about satisfaction as limbo. I'm happy where I'm at and I don't need to do anything else. I don't need anything else. That's not what we're talking about. So we can do this intentionally. And for those of us who are just, coming into this, we have to do it intentionally. We have to, it's a work. It's something that we have to be aware of and make ourselves aware of every single day. And we have to tell ourselves, okay, now I recognize I'm feeling this negative emotion. So I'm not satisfied anymore where I am. I see something that I don't like and I've stayed in that feeling of not liking it. So I need to choose to think about something else. And so I'm going to choose some positive things, some things that make me happy, and we're going to move up. Okay, I'm getting a little bit too much into next week's class. So we're going to come back to this scale, but take a screenshot, ask me to email it to you, whatever you want. It's really a good thing to even keep on the wall if you want to. So what do we want to be like? We want to be like a river, a free flowing river. And we're going to talk about this next week as well. But I can't leave you with no tools to get through this next week after your awareness has been woken up about how important your emotional brain is for your body. And we're going to talk about it even more. I can go on and on with this. This is really my favorite class. It could be a whole series just on the brain. So just real quick, we're going to acknowledge our feelings. We're going to, yes, and I'm okay with that. Basically, that this whole circle of thoughts that we need to go through and come back to gratefulness and love and okay. It is, there's a lot of little bubbles here, and read all of them. Go through it. Now, this is something that at first, this is something we go through every single time. It has to become habit. And then as we get used to it and it becomes a habit or an automatic response for us, what's going to happen is we're going to go from, this is how I'm feeling and I'm okay with it. And I'm grateful, and I'm going to release. I'm grateful for all the insight that it's giving me. I'm going to I release everything that doesn't serve me. I'm going to focus on what's good and the love and the acceptance I have for myself right now and for everyone else around me. And then you are already in a positive place where you can think clearly. Your reasoning mind can come in and think clearly about what step needs to happen next. But sometimes it's going to take a few minutes to just be able to run through all of that. If anyone wants to keep this little chart, please let me know, because it really can be very helpful when you're learning to bring your emotions under control. The steps that we need to take should be very small, very small. I'm going to go from here to here to here to here, because if I take a big leap, my subconscious isn't going to believe it, and it's going to fight it, etc. So again, why do positive emotions matter? We learned why the negative ones matter, because it gives us that laser vision, that tunnel vision. We don't get distracted. We save our life. And in a social situation, it's an instant indicator something's off with that person, with the situation, with the relationship, whatever it is. That's for the reasoning mind to figure out, but it gives you immediate understanding of what's going wrong, and you don't get distracted. Now, what do positive emotions do? They don't give us that tunnel vision, where they're not associated with specific actions. So what good are they apart from just, feeling happy or joyful, affectionate, or ecstatic? So here are some of the things that they do for us. They help us to have a broader pattern of thinking. Positive emotions will take away the tunnel vision and allow us to have a grander perspective of what's going on. We have much more creativity. We'll be flexible in our thoughts, and we'll be open to seeing the other person's side of things in a debate that's very important. Positive emotions help us to build psychological, social, physical, and intellectual resources as well. These make us stronger people. They make us more interesting. They give us more endurance to get through difficult situations and life cycles. Positive emotions undo the physical effects of the negative emotions. Remember what that looks like? Yeah. None of these is something that we want to look like every day, all day, right? So we don't want to hold on to them in any way. And so the positive emotions that come after a negative situation that we've been able to reframe and bring around to ground zero again, it undoes any physical effects that that had been made by the negative emotions that came in. Not just in one instance, but also throughout life. If we have held in ourselves physical effects of negative emotions, and we start to heal our mind and our brains and our hearts, and we come out of those negative thought patterns, we're going to have physical healing as well. Positive emotions give us more resilience, that emotional resilience to bounce back from a difficult situation. We're going to talk about that more next week, as well as triggering that upward spiral. This is what we're looking for. Our baseline satisfaction, and every positive thought that we embrace brings us up from there. So now, what else? So we need to find that link between the upbeat mental state and improved health. Some of those include, so we're not just talking about our greater life perspective and experience and our ability to think more clearly and be more creative and, be more, what do you call it when, it allows us to have a place in this world, that we do something good, that we make something happen, that we bring something good into the world for somebody else. Negative emotions do not do any of that. They bring chaos, and it's destructive. It brings people down. So the positive emotions can lower blood sugar, top left, reduce risk for heart disease, help us have a healthier weight, better blood sugar levels, and a longer life. So basically, we discovered what a negative feeling does for us and what the positive feeling does for us. The negative feeling keeps us safe. It allows us to instantly, in a tenth of a second, understand if the person, place, or thing or environment is unsafe for us in any way. And the positive feelings help us to expand our life and our brain capacity, our social environment, help us to be more creative, to give more to society, to our environment, to our family, help us to build better relationships, help our body to heal from any negative impact. So while the negative thought and emotion, that instinctive response in our limbic brain to the fight, flight, or freeze might be life-saving in some situations, at the end of the day, the thing that will give us a long life, a long and healthy life, is the positive feelings and emotions. So I promised you this little chart, and it's really cute. It's great for kids, but I like it for us as well because it's not so overwhelming. It's just very light. And you know, you might have seen this in a GON or a kindergarten, and it's great. You know, the kid walks in the door and the teacher says, "Hi, how are you today? Can you show me on the chart how you're feeling?" Because a lot of little kids don't know how to put that into words. This is the, you know, 0 to 4 years old. This is a great time to start with your 0 to 4-year-old. Identify your emotions. 5 to 6-year-old, you're feeling like this today. So here's a list of things that we can do to counteract that negative emotion. Would you like to start with this, this, or this today? We can do that with ourselves. We can wake up in the morning and ask ourselves, how am I feeling today? What emotion did I wake up with? And then we can say, all right, so for that emotion, I need to meditate for 15 minutes and then go have a green juice and maybe step in the sauna for 10 minutes. I'm going to jump on the trampoline for 20 minutes and then go to work. And I'm going to feel like a completely different person than if I got up and I went on my phone and I read the news that made me sad, depressed, and scared, and talked with friends about it and posted about it and read some more things about it, and then framed all of that in my mental picture book and video vault for the day and go to work. I'm going to feel like a horrible, horrible person all day. It's not going to feel good. So we have a choice every time that we recognize a negative emotion, what to do with it. And now we have some great tools. And one of those great tools is detoxing our body. We mentioned the other day when we were talking about gut health, colon health, how the colon is that second brain. Could be maybe the first brain as far as importance. It's hard to really say, but that gut brain that we have, if it is unhealthy, imbalanced, clogged up, blocked up, in dis-ease, experiencing a dis-ease, any kind of imbalance, it's going to mess with the brain up here. And it's going to give the brain up here incorrect information because it's sick. So we want to keep our digestion and our colon clean and healthy so that it can give correct information to all the rest of the body, including our brain. One of the ways we love to do this is through the Lifelong Vitality daily kit. That's what you see in the middle here. And this whole kit together is called the Cleanse and Restore. And this is a very, very gentle detox and cleansing kit. We have nursing and pregnant mothers taking this, and they only avoid the GX Assist down here. Now, of course, I'm not telling you this is safe. I'm telling you, be aware that women who are nursing and pregnant are able to safely take this, and they're under the guidance of a health professional. Please, everyone, if you have any kind of medical condition, including nursing or pregnancy, please be under the advice of a medical health professional. And it doesn't have to be modern medicine, but it does need to be someone who understands how the body works and what it needs in different stages with different health issues and how it can interact with medication that somebody might be on. So we always want to be very careful, very educated, not afraid to ask questions and to get advice. And we will continue to feel better and healthier and healthier. And that example will change someone else's life. Someone else will say, you're a different person. What are you doing? Because I need to feel different. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how I respond emotionally. I don't like how my body feels. What can I do? First of all, start taking the Cleanse and Restore and just support that body's natural detoxification agenda. Our bodies are regenerating 30 to 40 trillion cells a day as it works tirelessly to keep us healthy and balanced and strong. So let's support that as much as we possibly can. Thank you so much for joining me for this week 11, part 1. Week 12 will be part 2 of the emotional brain. And I know that you're probably as excited as I am to discover next week, not only how can we encourage those positive emotions in our brain, but how do we use, we're going to go again, how do we use those negative emotions for good? In a social situation, let's say, because that's where we are almost all the time, whether with our friends or work or family. How do we create a habit of positivity without negating the importance of the negative emotions? How do we retrain or reprogram our brain to automatically go for solution and positive outcome instead of ruminating on the negative emotion and feelings? How do we keep that brain working for us and not live as a victim to our emotions that we just cannot seem to get control of? So again, thank you for joining me in my favorite 2 weeks of this series. And I really look forward to seeing you next week, Monday morning, 11:30 Israel time, or on the recording on our YouTube channel, Naturally Naughty. Thank you so much.